Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to From the Depths, the cheese menu. I felt like doing another one of these because, quite frankly, being in lockdown has made me lazy, and I felt like doing another non-From the Depths thing, but I kind of think you guys might start rioting in the YouTube streets if I did that. So we're doing a quick little FTD thing, and this is on one of the most famous / infamous exploits in the whole game, and that is Spinblock propellers, or internal Spinblock propulsion. So, yeah. So this is this has been in the game, I think, since the very beginning, since Spinblocks and just turret objects and sub-objects and all that kind of stuff were first implemented, and it is very, very cheeky and quite popular because it can be, it is an exploit. Let's face it, it is shamelessly exploiting how the game works, and a particular fault in the game that the devs, they have confirmed pretty much that they're not going to try and fix it because it'll just be too difficult, and I don't know, the people who love doing this kind of thing might riot in the YouTube streets, or the internet streets. So here we are. So what am I talking about? So, you will notice here we have a canoe, the kind of canoe that I tend to build regularly often. This, honest to goodness, is my favorite kind of vehicle, by the way. It's a narrow little canoe with a single turret on it, no superstructure, and that's just how it is. And also fast, except this particular little thing doesn't have any external propulsion. It's got no jets, it's got no internal daddy blades, before anyone wonders that. Got no propellers on the outside. All it has on the outside are two rudders. So how's it moving, and how is that wake being made right now? Well, ooh, that marauder shell just bounced off. Both of these things are in God mode, by the way, just for giggles, really. So, what's going on in here? Well, you'll notice there's a lot of RTGs and batteries to power this thing, and it's actually got a crap ton of propellers. All of which are mounted on spin blocks, and all of which are providing thrust. It's also got two big roll props right here, because it is quite narrow. And this is shenanigans of the highest degree. And by the way, I'm not going to cover absolutely all the different kinds of crap you can get up to with spin blocks in this one video, because there's too many. Like, I could fill most of this playlist of the cheese menu with just spin block stuff. But yeah, this is one of the most common and one of the most, honestly, advantageous to do if you are a cheaty person. And so all it is that it's taken advantage of the fact that objects on... Well, basically, spin blocks have, well, sub-objects, so that includes, if we go here, build menu, so it's pistons, spin blocks, and all the varieties of turret. They have no drag, and any form of propulsion mounted on them basically cannot be blocked by the main hull or other sub-objects. So, to give you an idea what I mean, is let's just turn everything off for a hot minute, so we can, wow, we got another bounce there. Well, I guess it's because God mode. So inside this wee canoe, we can totally put a propeller, because that goes there. The problem is that you get this alarm here. So not enough free room behind, efficient, greatly reduced, neck, spell check. Due to the placement of the block, the force output is scaled to 0%. So, propellers need about 8 meters of clearance behind them in order to function properly. So, if I go, let's see here, so let's go from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, that should be enough. So if I go put this here, you will see that doesn't happen still, because it's all the way over there. Let's try putting it all the way there. I swear this works. Nope, it's completely blocked off. It also needs to be external. It's interesting, you can get away with that a little bit. So here we have a slope, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, go here, and crap. This works, because it's just being blocked there, and it's outside the hull, and all that jazz. That's how they're supposed to work, that's how they regularly work if you put them on the hull. You'll notice that these things mounted on spin blocks, they're fully functional. They they don't have that sign here, and that's because what's on this sub-object, it doesn't recognize the main hull as blocking it, like, at all. And, like, vice versa. So if I go here, and I put this prop here, and then I put a spin block here. So where is that spin block? So there's the spin block. And it is totally blocking that propeller. That propeller should not be able to function, but it can. Because the main hull cannot detect that there's a subduct here. So, like, the drag and the blocking of the propulsion force, it doesn't work like that. So, this is leaving plenty of rooms for exploits, because it means that you can, well, as I have done, you can shove all your propulsion inside the hull. So, like, you don't need to worry about it being blocked off, you don't need to stick all your props on the back of the craft, you can stick it inside behind, like, 50 layers of metal to keep it safe, and just, it's very cheesy, very exploity, and a lot of people hate this, and rightfully so. I definitely do hate it, but now I've made this canoe thing, oh, it's seductive. Like, it is, this, like, you know what they say, power corrupts? Like, this is, oh, this is so nice. And also, since I discovered azipods, like, props mounted on spin blocks that can be turned in order to steer the craft and propel it at the same time, oh, this is a tempting thing to do. Oh, I'm not afraid to admit that it is tempting. By the way, yeah, they're just mounted like this. I didn't even have to do that, really, because, each one of these sub-objects has just got a 3-meter pole on it, or 4 meter, and just got props stacked on there. In fact, this one is actually clipping straight through the hull here. So we see there, this is clipping straight through the hull. Like, and that's another exploit you can do with spin blocks, is that also, like, the props on this front spin block are actually inside the poles of the one immediately behind it. It's very cheaty, very exploity, makes no physical sense. And I'm not surprised if you all hate me for this. That's fine. Like, let's face it, I deserve it for making this video. So, yeah, that's basically it. Like, you can get away with real shenanigans with this. And as mentioned before, like, there's no real downside to it, so long as you don't go overboard. Like, because the one thing about it is that, a few disadvantages about it, like, if the sub-object gets destroyed, so go here, if this gets destroyed, like, it's a lot of particularly like this is like 5 props just on the one spin block. Yeah, that has a lot of health, 800 health and 15 armor, and but if this gets destroyed, that's immediately like 5 props gone. Admittedly, small props have pretty lousy health, so let's see here, 315, yeah, so the props would probably hypothetically get destroyed before the spin block, but the case remains that spin blocks and any form of sub-object, it is a weak point. So if that gets destroyed by whatever, like, all the stuff attached to it falls straight off. Like, #1 cause of death for turrets is just they get destroyed from underneath. I'm not sure if that's #1 cause of death, but, like, it's pretty glaring way to die for a sub-object. It's just to get sniped by something and then the whole thing falls off. So yeah, that is a disadvantage. Also, your CPU hates this, so rendering and just calculating how sub-objects all work, it does tax your PC quite a bit. So when I was originally building it, I was thinking like, oh, I'll be super cute and just have a whole bunch of spin blocks in here, each with one small propeller on it, so I can jam lots of stuff in there. I wasn't even halfway done filling this space before, like, my computer started to lag, and my computer isn't the best, but it is pretty beefy. She's old. She has been around for a while, but she was bleeding edge when I first got her, and she was starting to chug with just too many spin blocks on this one craft. So it does hurt your computer, and it kind of depends on how good your rig is, how much spin block shenanigans you can do, because it's an easy way to crash your game, by the way, if you have too many sub-objects just messing with each other and with other things in the game. So that's basically all it is on that. Like, it's not limited to props, by the way. You can do jets and stuff in here as well. And just, yeah, it's super cheaty, but there are legitimate reasons for doing it. In particular, I believe that I still I have the blueprint around here somewhere. So, subscribe craft. No, let's go to ships retired craft. I remember what this is. There we go. So this is a... Did I keep it? I don't remember if I did. Oh, I totally did. So if you remember, this is... Well, technically this is a modified version of a craft ages ago. Actually, I'm going to show you the original one. I'm going to show you the original one because that's fair, and now I remember what its name is. Yeah, there we go. Subscribe to craft. This is a huge folder, by the way. Go down to L. Where are you? Jeez, there's a lot of stuff in here. Lapis class escort destroyer. This was by a very good builder, Sunday Lau, who I believe doesn't really play FTD anymore. And it's got a big fake rudder there. This is before large rudders were introduced. Good God, that was a long time ago. And you'll see this thing has internal Spinblock props. And the only reason for that is so that it can work up a decent speed while still looking good. Because, and this is also in the days before steam propellers were a thing as well. It was a long time ago. Is just so the thing could get up to a decent speed without being absolutely covered in propellers in the backside. So for aesthetic purposes, basically. And for basically aesthetic builders who, for whatever reason, you want to hide your propulsion, and you don't actually want it to be seen, this kind of spin block trick is actually quite useful, because it means that your craft looks nice and sexy, and it's not, well, it's not actually drenched in propellers all that much. It could also be a fairly decent way of just hiding, roll and altitude props inside a hull. In fact, did he do that? He did not do that, but, oh, no, he did that with hydrofoils. Hydrofoils, you don't kind of need to do that, because they do that anyway for some weird reason. Look at them dancing, just like... Worst beatbox in the world. So anyway, so that's kind of a legit way to use that kind of spin block trick. And that's about it, really, because there's a very good reason. Like in most tournaments that I've heard of, let's go back here. Nope, not that. In most tournaments that I've ever seen and heard of, that kind of internal spin block propulsion thing is banned, and for very, very good reasons, because it's just too easy, like, to make a craft which just goes like stink. So we have our little dude here. This thing has no props, like, on the outside of it, and it's going almost 40 meters per second. And it's a very narrow hull, and it's very cheaty. I am inordinately fond of this thing, don't get me wrong, but yeah, it's like, it is cheaty as balls, man. So yeah, that's basically it for this. If you want to do this, well, be my guest. Just don't expect brownie points at all, because it is, let's face it, it is quite cheaty. It's quite cheeky. It's got its place, but yeah, on the whole, I'm not planning to use this too often, like, despite the immense temptation, because it is very tempting. Also, on top of this thing is possibly the worst cram turret I've ever built. And I take full responsibility for that, because that was one of the new prefabs, which I modified, and it's still pretty bad, so yeah. So on that note of self-deprecating, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon if you like, it really helps. Thank you to all my current Patreon supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths, with more delicious cheese, or maybe not. Farewell!